So I'm going to be talking about mindful eating and how I've been using it to focus my diet so that I understand better what I think's healthy for me, what my body is attracted to and what nourishes it, and also as well how I've used it to not only reduce cravings but change the cravings that I'm having. So I tend to crave healthier food a lot more. So with mindful eating, I think it's important to simplify it, spending a little bit more time, effort and even money as well on our food can be a big game changer in how we see the food. If we see how easy the food is to access and how cheap it is to get hold of, then there's a chance that we could also treat the food cheaply. We're less likely then to give it our attention. And in doing that, we actually give the food more power over us. And we're more likely to eat this cheaper, attainable food that we're less bound to mindlessly. And in eating food mindlessly, it can cause us to overeat. It can cause us to not keep track of how much we're eating, and it can cause cravings. Cravings, they don't necessarily come from the body, they usually come from the mind, mainly to our addiction of the release of dopamine, which happens in the anticipation of eating instead of the actual eating process. It's amazing to know we actually got more dopamine from anticipating the cookie than we receive from the cookie itself. I'll get my pumpkin seeds out actually. So in this process, when you're eating food mindlessly, bang, the food hasn't even reached my mouth, dopamine is peaking, spiking. It goes in, I'm chewing, not really noticing the actual eating itself. What I'm noticing is picking up the next piece of food. Dopamine release. I'm still eating the food, but I'm actually looking at the next piece of food. That goes in. Still eating. Next one in the hand. I've got 2 seeds still in my mouth. Couldn't care less about them. What I care about is the seed that is in my hand. The anticipation of eating another one and the release of dopamine that comes from it. So for that reason, we can never properly shake an urge when we try and feed an urge in this way. We're chasing something that is unattainable or something that we never properly satisfy, because we can't ever satisfy anticipation. The anticipation of eating is fueling our eating. Eating itself is relatively non-existent because of that. It's only actually there to provide the action of having more, of having another go and seeing if the next mouthful is going to be the best mouthful. Whereas if we eat mindfully, then we can realize that the best mouthful is the current mouthful and there's no other mouthful that exists at this time. Another exercise that you can do to try and take control away from dopamine and cravings is to get something that you really want to eat, something that you usually crave, and hold it in your hand for a minute or on a fork, whatever you're using to eat, and bring it to your mouth and just pause there for a moment. Look at it and think about eating it. Then when you've paused for a moment, take it away again and try to feel what's happening in your body as you go through this process. Feel the surge of anticipation and how you might be salivating. See if you can almost taste the food before you put it in the mouth and feel how that anticipation builds a picture and creates a perfect story of what's going to happen when you eat this food. Be aware of all these feelings and sit with them for a moment, but let them pass. So just wait a few moments and let everything pass. And then once that's finished, eat the food. But now try to use the same mindfulness that you used in putting the food to your mouth and taking it away again. Slow it down and eat it, and try to taste more levels of the food that you might usually taste by just eating it and then thinking about eating the next mouthful. Try to determine if you feel as excited now while eating it as you did in anticipating eating the food before. And in doing this, we can heighten our understanding to how dopamine works, and we can lessen our disappointment of expectations and also weaken cravings as well in the future, because eating in this way sometimes can satisfy your cravings a little bit more because it takes away the enjoyment from the anticipation and adds enjoyment to the actual eating process. So instead of eating everything, like the whole bowl of food, 1 or 2 things might be enough because you've taken your time over it, you've slowed down the process a little bit more, and also you feel like you've met the craving because you've got the full taste from the food, and the event of eating you've been in control of it, so it's been completely yours. Mindful eating doesn't need to be hard. We're not bad at it if we don't practice it all the time. But if we break it down, what we're aiming to achieve is an awareness of how food makes us feel before eating, during eating, and after eating. What I'm trying to say is the eating doesn't finish once we've looked at it, chewed it, and swallowed it. There's a massive process that happens after that. The food then lives inside us for a period of time. Our body breaks it down, it takes parts of the food that it needs, and it gets rid of the parts that it doesn't need. And we feel that whole process in our energy levels, our happiness, our focus, and the many other signals that our body gives us to tell us what it thinks of that food, how it's affected us. When we do this, we can analyze how the food that we're eating is serving us. It's hard to think about the outcome of eating it because it's so far away. We've got to do so many things before we get there. We've got to think about eating it, we've got to anticipate eating it, we've got to eat it, we've got to swallow it, enjoy it, and then we'll just deal with the outcome afterwards. When we become attuned to paying attention to the food we eat, we also then fall into the habit of listening to our bodies and the foods that are serving our bodies well, and the foods that are nourishing our bodies. The body will always tell you its reaction to eating amazing things and what it truly desires. It's not easy, especially at an early stage, to communicate with our bodies because the noise is often masked by cravings. I used to be a sugar fanatic. I'd have 3 chocolate bars a day as standard and would never keep track of the amount of biscuits I was eating or snacks like that. But I'm now attuned to the effect that sugar has on my body, how my energy levels will spike and then plunge, and then like that you lose the control of your well-being and of your body's performance, and also of your respect for food. I'm not trying to tell you what foods you should eat or shouldn't eat. You will know that better than I will. But for me, I can really now feel the sting that sugar has. It has a kind of sting in my mouth if there's too much sugar in something. It blocks other flavours. And these flavours and foods are definitely things that we can get used to. And I feel like they undermine other flavours, and they can make us think that other flavours are flavourless. So they don't have that same strength that something for sugar, for instance, will have. One of the best meals I've ever had in my life was in the mountains of Vietnam. And we were staying with this local family, and they served us plain rice, plain noodles, plain egg, plain mushrooms, along with some plain vegetables. It was stunning, the simplicity of it. It's a good practice to try things that are completely plain sometimes, to activate certain senses in your mouth, and it's a very good mindful technique so you can feel the enjoyment there is in relatively plain foods. In bringing awareness to the table and in acknowledging what we're eating and slowing down the whole process and tasting the whole process and feeling the senses that are involved in the whole process of eating, and in tasting the complexities of our food, we can eat at a rate that allows our bodies to get full and have time to let us know they're full as well. So loads of love to you. Please subscribe, like, share if you can, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.